welcome to the Prince Magnum Channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Do-It-Yourself Budget Hot Rodding. Many of you in the Maverick Nation have heard about the recent breakdowns with Project Lena. Now, many of our Lady Mavericks are getting very acquainted with Project Lena because we've been using her as a teaching aid, along with Project Spirit a little bit, as a teaching aid for their series, Lady Mavericks Unite. But things happened, okay? As the making of this video, April of 2022, Project Lena will be a grand total, ironically enough, a grand total of 19 years old. In April of 2023, Project Lena will be a classic car. That's impressive, okay? Considering most of the time these vehicles were not made to last that long. So she's held up pretty doggone well. And considering her age, she still looks pretty good, you know. But beyond that scope, as I said, she's had a couple of breakdowns. What has broken on Project Lena that we've had to fix so I could keep driving her back and forth to work? Well, the first thing that went out a couple of weeks ago as the making of this video is the alternator, and we do have highlighted footage of that, but we'll get to that in a moment. And the other thing that went out was her power steering pump. And that was an interesting story in itself, and I wish I had more video footage of it. However, I don't, okay? Things happen, okay? Things happen. But let's go ahead and talk about the alternator real quick. Actually, let's roll the highlighted footage and we'll talk about it afterwards. Everything seems to be fine. Everything was connected okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's about as smooth as she's run in a minute. Hell yeah. Alright, welcome back, folks. Really, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about in the highlighted, with the highlighted footage. I know a lot of you would have liked me to walk you through it, but honestly and truthfully, what's to really talk about? The tool that you've seen in there was used to kind of release the idler pulley or tensioner pulley, and then the serpentine belt was kind of hung here, so it was kind of out of the way, and it would be easy to reinstall it. After that, it was a grand total of 2 connectors right here and 3 bolts. That's it. That's all it took to remove it. And then once the old one came out, the new one, just reverse order, put everything back on. And then, it just went together so easy. And a lot of y'all got to see the return of T-Bone to the Prince Magnum Channel. Big special thank you to my adopted brother, T-Bone, who I have known since high school. I've known this guy, and he came over, gave me a hand, because I've never had to work on a front-wheel drive car like this, so it was a new experience for me. And I knew he would know what to do about the idler pulley, and I was actually afraid that we were going to have to disconnect the engine from the motor mount over here and jack it up out of the engine bay, and then completely. But no, he had a solution beyond that scope, so it was actually ridiculously easy after that. So that is now done. Now, really quick, kind of a heads up, with Project Lena, I did not know this. There was 2 different alternators offered for this particular model, and maybe for a few others. There was one made by Bosch and one made by AC Delco. Project Lena requires the one made by Bosch, which they're pretty much almost identical in price. It's just one company made one and made it slightly different, and another company made a different one, slightly different. That's really about it. That's really all you need to know. Now, let's talk about the power steering pump. As I'm making this video, it happened a couple of days ago. I was on my way to work, and as I heard a little squeak, come from under the hood. I thought maybe, I knew I was going to have to check it sometime that day, and kind of go over it, take a good close look at it. Well, I didn't get that far, because as I was pulling into the work parking lot, I had no power steering. I thought, okay, maybe she sprung a leak, we'll put a little fluid in her, and I'll get a new pump, and that sort of, no. I went to leave the work parking lot, and it progressively got worse. I got over to AutoZone to pick up a brand new pump. That new pump, I didn't get to install. Because what happened next? Well, this is typical, very typical. The pump locked up, okay? And when it did, it bent the shaft on the old power steering pump and snapped the pulley, as you can tell right here. Snapped it in what looks like 3 places, and then chewed up the serpentine belt a little bit. So basically left me stranded, because when the serpentine belt goes, that takes everything on the front of your engine, which is one of the reasons why I like the old V-belt system on cars like Project Spirit. Because if one belt goes, you still got the other ones to kind of back you up a little bit. But in this particular case, when the serpentine belt goes, you have no water pump. You have no alternator. power steering, air conditioning, all gone off of your engine, okay? Power steering pump was already gone anyways, but you guys get the general idea. Everything on the front of your engine is no longer receiving power. So now I've got a battery being drained. I got the temperature rising. I had to pull her, and I had no power steering. And having power steering on a vehicle that's front-wheel drive sucks. So I had to pull into a parking spot. I had to start making phone calls. And I want to take a moment and thank our newfound friends at the Farmington location, Plaza Tire, okay? Plaza Tire in Farmington, Missouri, for taking Project Spirit on such short notice. I limped her over there, got her, parked, told them what was happening. They then, in turn, they have certain insurance things, and normally I don't like this sort of thing, but I kind of bit the bullet on this. But other than that, I had no other complaints. Okay, but they ordered a brand new power steering pump, got her a brand new pulley, and installed a brand new serpentine belt. The serpentine belt they didn't even charge for. I guess because I was upset about them not using the power steering pump that I brought. But hey, it still worked out. I took it back to AutoZone. They gave me a full refund. So one way or the other, she got a brand new power steering pump, brand new pulley, a brand new serpentine belt, and they did it in just, in a day. Okay, really it only took a couple hours. The longest part of the wait was just waiting for the parts to come in, and they took good care of her. Currently right now, so that's now a brand new alternator, brand new power steering pump, brand new pulley, and a brand new serpentine belt, all on the front of Project Spirit. A few years ago we had the water pump replaced, and we've had the harmonic balancer replaced. That's weird that we would have to have something like that replaced. I'm used to the old days where you didn't have to worry about stuff like that. But, so now we have, at the rate we're going, the front of Project Spirit is going to be practically brand new, the front of her engine, if you will. And really quick, technically this would be the front, but they put these in here transfers. But you guys get the idea. So, that takes care of that. Now, really quick, I had a customer of mine who was stopping off at Plaza Tire, and he brought me home. So special thank you to that customer of mine who brought me home. And then to get back to the shop, I had to call a taxi. I want to take a moment and thank our another newfound friend, KC Taxi, that basically picked me up here at Prince Magnum Channel HQ and took me all the way to Farmington for a very affordable price. It only cost me $30. I threw in a $5 just for a tip for the guy as a big thank you, because he came over and picked me up in a convertible Mustang. I've never rode in one of those convertible Mustang. I've had my own Mustang, but never rode in a convertible Mustang. So that was a new experience for me. So big special thank you to KC Cabs for picking me up and taking me over to pay off Project Lena's repairs and bring her home. So big special thank you to all of those fine folks that took care of us here on the Prince Magnum Channel. So, how does she run now? Okay, ironically enough, with a new pump, she has a little bit of a whine to that pump, which I imagine with time that will eventually go away as the pump gets broke in. But in the meantime, we're going to have to kind of give it a little bit of break-in time, just to make sure. Last thing I want is to have to replace a brand new power steering pump on this thing. So, we have a brand new alternator, brand new power steering pump. Hopefully we don't have any more unusual breakdowns, but again, we're talking about a car that's almost 19 years old. You should expect things to break every now and again. We do have other things we do need to replace. We have tie rod ends on the suspension that will need replacing. Along with that, we're going to have to replace all 4 tires, because while Princess Faye was driving her, she had oversized tires put on her, and it's rubbing in certain areas. You ought to see the ones in the back. It's very interesting. Along with that, she's also due for an oil change, and there are certain things with her coolant system I'm just not happy with. constantly having to top this off at least once every other week. We're having to top this off, and we shouldn't be going through that much coolant. So there's a slow leak somewhere. And that's another one that we're going to have to address. Along with that, we still got the driver's side front door. The window doesn't roll up like it's supposed to. And ironically enough, Princess Faye last year had ordered a part, the window regulator system, track and everything, from Amazon, from a no-name Chinese company, and it doesn't work. Basically, it worked for a few months. It doesn't work, okay? So we're back to square one with this. Along with that, it's just little things like that that we're going to have to address. And along with that, at some point in all of this, we're going to have the transmission service. Otherwise, eventually, that's going to go out if we don't take care of it. Folks, this is commonplace where you're going to have things go wrong on your car after a period of time. And I imagine with her age, with her original owner, it probably did happen at one point. Where she started having, where it seemed like every time you turn around, she was nickel and diming you. That also being said, usually that happens every 7 to 10 years. Now, this is about the time that a lot of folks will say, well, the car is falling apart, maybe I should go ahead and consider getting a new one. And for some people, that's just fine. For others, we'll go through the repairs. We'll fix the car. And as we continue to fix the car, and it nickels and dimes us, eventually at a certain point, you have fixed everything that you can fix. And it'll practically be like a brand new car, but it isn't. It's already paid for, just like Project Lena. And when that happens, it'll be just fine. So there's two ways to go about it. You could let it nickel and dime you and make the repairs as it comes up, or you could go ahead and get a brand new vehicle. It's completely and totally up to you. Myself personally, I've always found it's been cheaper to repair what you've got if you like it. If you don't like it, then go ahead and trade it off. Okay? But any which way you slice it, it's your project. You decide, okay? But that's the name of the game with cars like Project Lena. They're eventually going to fall into where they need repair, and it'll be up to you to decide whether or not you want to keep them. Now, Project Lena has served us very well here on this channel, along with Project Spirit. And Project Spirit has had her fair share of breakdowns. The only difference between the two in this case is we're talking about a car that over there is coming up on 50 years, whereas this one is creeping up on 20. The joke about Project Spirit, though, is most stuff that breaks on her took over 40 years to break, whereas with Project Lena, it took, almost 20 in a lot of cases. Because in some cases, I've actually seen some of the stuff on Project Lena. It's still factories that we're replacing factory stuff. So, all right, folks. That brings us to the end of this little segment, because I know a lot of you have heard about the breakdowns and you probably wanted to know what happened, and some of you haven't heard anything. So now you're getting caught up to speed with Project Lena. So that does bring us to a good stopping point in this video. Really quick, to help mitigate the cost of the things that we have to replace on Project Lena, and eventually getting back to Project Spirit and working on her, to mitigate some of the financial costs, many of you have offered to help. Well, if you want to help, I'll tell you exactly how to do it. And that requires you to maybe jump over and become a member of the High Mileage Club. Okay? And how do you do that? Go over to, go right here on YouTube. Go over to the main page for the Prince Magnum Channel, right here on YouTube, and there's a link to the Patreon account. For $1 a month, you can put back into the project cars. But maybe you would like something to hold in your hands, maybe some merchandise. Well, we have that too. In the same exact spot, there's a link to the Teespring store, and by clicking on that link, it'll take you right there. And you could purchase maybe coffee cups, sweatpants, hoodies. Gosh, there's so many things to choose from. You can't go wrong. So maybe that's your grab, okay? And all the proceeds from the Patreon and from the Teespring store will go directly back into the project cars. But beyond that scope, I'd like to remind all of you, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is. Just do something with yourselves. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. And as always, for all of you out there, no one out there has told you that they love you today. Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.
With an over 116 miles an hour, and right now, good time to go get a hot dog.